Hi, everyone, and welcome back to The Practiced Life. This is where we talk about how we start moving through our daily lives more consciously instead of repeating those unconscious patterns over and over for years, for decades, that basically recreate the same old stuff over and over again. And what happens with the practice life is we create anew. It's like we're living a new version of our lives. So I'm calling the episode today Hit the Easy Button. And I'm going to start by asking all of us this question, including myself. How did we learn to make things so hard? I mean, how did we learn that? I think I think I was born with the word toil on my lips. I call it the perils of my midwestern roots. Now, I grew up in the northern suburbs of Chicago. My parents were both born in Waukegan, Illinois. My dad was in the Navy, so I was born in Georgia. We lived in Hawaii. But of course, we ended up settling back where my parents were from, where my people are from. And they're from Waukegan, Libertyville, Lake Villa, and other northern and western suburbs of Illinois. And there's something so nice about being from the Midwest. I love Midwestern people. There's just a niceness. There is a friendliness. There is I don't know, call it maybe it's a cheerfulness. Now I know that's a sweeping generalization, but it's the heart of America, and Midwestern people have great hearts. However, I say however, there's also in that Midwestern archetype, there's also this propensity to make things hard. I picture myself as a Midwesterner when I go off to work, going off to the salt mine with my lunch pail and working as many hours as it took until the whistle blew. And that was kind of my Midwestern way. All my great uncles worked in factories. My dad was the first person in his family to go to college. Both my grandmothers graduated from high school and were working women. But I would say I grew up around the energy of hard, toil, struggle, dealing with challenges. And I liken it to the belief system of what is now the dying patriarchy. There's a belief system in there. Think about all the things you were told. I mean, forget. We'll talk about money on another episode, but just start with making things hard. You have to work hard. You can't get ahead without hard work. Um, you share your struggles with people. Everything's a challenge. There's just problem after problem after problem to solve. And that really is the belief system of the dying patriarchy. I remember I was serving on the board at the University of Iowa, my alma mater. I was serving on the Tippy College Business Board, and we were doing some workshopping. And I was one of very few women. Most were white men who ran companies. And we were talking about what kinds of what kinds of graduates were these companies really looking for? And to a person, everybody said a problem solver. And it came to me and I said, even as I hear you say that, it's like we're asking for more problems to be solved. Why don't we start graduating solution finders? And oh my goodness, they were sweet, those guys. They were just like, yeah, 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 wanting to just pat me on the head. But I have always believed that words are so powerful. So I'm looking in my own vocabulary to see they're my creative tools. What am I creating with the words I use? And once I started paying attention to it, I could see my pattern in speaking is all about hard. I'm breaking my new commitment to myself in order to discuss this with you. But oh yes, this is going to be hard. How was this or that? Oh, it was hard. Yeah, well, here's the problem. That's a big saying of mine. Here's the problem. Well, here's the challenge. Or you know what the problem is. And well, that sounds really hard. Those kinds of words, that vocabulary of hard is so patterned in my midwestern past, in all the past versions of me. Those words are just right there. They're just right there. And in listening to myself talk, one of the reasons I began to see this in myself is because I work with lots and lots and lots of women who are in a similar age, who were raised in a similar way. And I can hear it in when they share. I'm like, whoa, oh my gosh, we're always trying. Things are always hard. Everything's a problem. We're challenged by everything. It's like, it's like we are really literally running in sand. And so when I could see that, it was like people were holding up a mirror to me. I could say to myself, you know, that is not helpful, Sherry. And as you are managing your energy, as you are continually tweaking and revising the practices in your life, one of the practices should be creating a replacement vocabulary for that old vocabulary of toil and effort and hardness. And so that's what I started to do is I just started to think of what are the words? Ease, easy, solution, inspiration. Oh, this is going to be easy. Now, even when I say that now, I get a little hink on that, a little like, because it's not what I've practiced all my life. But that's why I practice. I practice easy. I practice being in flow. I talk about there's nothing that's not going to be easy. There's nothing that isn't about a solution. There is nothing that isn't about being in flow. And when I'm not feeling those things, it's because somehow, some way, my thoughts have aligned with that old vocabulary of difficulty. And that is how powerful choosing your words can be. That is how powerful it can be. It's unbelievable. And just like with any practice, let me say this last thing. You're like, how am I going to do that? You just start noticing with curiosity and no judgment. And then you start choosing new words and you start using new sentences. And at first, you know what it feels like? It feels like you're learning a complicated dance and your feet are flying all over and you feel like an uncoordinated doofus. But that's why we practice. You just keep practicing over and over. This is easy. This is going to be easy. I'm finding this easy. I'm finding the ease and flow in my day. I'm finding the ease and flow in my day. And after a while, it starts to become more comfortable and more automatic. We train and teach ourselves to live a new version of our lives. And that is why we practice. Thanks for listening. Hit the easy button, friends. hit the easy button. Thanks for listening to The Practice Life. I've got a great workbook at my free network for you. It's called Change 10 Words, Change Your Life. That is a fantastic workbook, and it's free. So go to sherrysalata.com/free network. It just takes a minute to just put your little info in, and you can get that free workbook right away. Change 10 words, change your life. And that is how powerful language is. I'll see you next time.